Alice is in
and out.
Now, Sounds Like Women is a not-for-profit organisation that aims to use music and songwriting as a means for survivors of domestic abuse to talk about their experience. They run songwriting for recovery workshops where people can write and record their own music as a means of talking about what they've been through. And now they have a new single out. It's called How to Know, and here's a little taste of it.
If you're out with your girlfriend for the night and he follows you to town, if he says he will give you everything so you don't need to work, how to know if he really cares or does he just want to control? If he's home from work and had a bad day.
Those were the beautiful vocals of Lisa S. Now, I spoke to Lisa S earlier and started by asking if she was comfortable with sharing her story and telling us about how she became involved with the Songwriting for Recovery workshops.
Yeah, okay. So, I started off by getting into a relationship where I didn't recognise the red flags for domestic abuse. There wasn't really any physical abuse, so I didn't recognise abuse at all. So I was in this relationship. I couldn't work out why I felt on edge around him and even scared sometimes. But he would just kind of naturally manipulate me and sometimes threaten me and then pretend that he was messing about. He'd lie to me a lot and sort of deny things he'd done. And even though I knew he was doing it, but he was kind of a master at making me feel like I was making mountains out of molehills, and then he'd be nice to me again and I'd feel silly, and it just went on with this pattern, and I just kept telling myself off for kind of being too sensitive, you know. But yeah, the pattern kind of went on and then it got worse. I felt kind of really isolated and intimidated at home all the time. It kind of got to the point that he was only really nice to me in front of other people. And then, yeah, when we were on our own, I kind of got to the point where I dreaded that. So I knew things weren't going to get better, and did decide to leave the relationship. But then again, that was more difficult because I was worried that no one would believe me, and I was financially reliant on him. And he basically made it clear that he would make my life as difficult as possible if I left. But anyway, I got through that, and I did leave. But again, hadn't really recognised anything about my situation, what had really happened to me. But then soon after leaving, I met a friend who'd been through something really similar, and we met and talked, and it was just really amazing to realise that I wasn't alone in that experience. And then I learned about gaslighting and psychological abuse and narcissistic abuse, and it was all just like a light bulb. And I suddenly understood what had happened to me. And then I met some other domestic abuse survivors, and I ended up joining Kaleidoscopic UK, which is now a charity. And that was just amazing in so many ways because of meeting all the people through the charity, but also the work that we do now. We offer lots of services to support anyone who's been through any type of abuse at all. And we're really passionate about raising awareness on the signs of abuse and trying to prevent it all happening to the next generation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And then through Kaleidoscopic, I met Louisa, obviously the founder of Sounds Like Women and this project. So Louisa's so inspirational and fun, and we worked on one project together. And then she asked me if I wanted to take part in Songwriting for Recovery workshops, which I obviously did. And that's how I met her, and it's been a really empowering experience.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us in such detail. You spoke there about finding a friend who'd had a similar experience and how that helped you feel less alone. So I hope listening to this will make someone out there feel less alone. And if also people listening to this, like you say, you want to raise awareness, hopefully hearing your experience has raised some awareness of people listening. What role did music have in your life before you came to this workshops? Was music a big part of your life? Were you a music fan?
Massive music fan, really. Yeah, I always have been since I can remember. My dad would always play music in our house, and we'd always have music in our life. Always listened to it, sang, always danced. Not sang professionally, of course, but yeah, always had it around in my life. So I definitely never imagined releasing a single though. So that's cool.
And was writing or songwriting in particular anything that you'd considered before as a means of expressing your emotions or speaking about your experience?
No, I'd never really thought about that. I have written some poetry in the past, and I have kind of messed about with sort of trying to write songs, but it's definitely nothing I've spent time on.
And why was it important for you to use music to speak about your experience in this way?
I think because when you've been through something big that and you think about all the time what happened to you, and you want to tell other people, look out for this behavior, if things don't feel right in your relationship and you feel disrespected or controlled or you're being treated wrong, you want to tell people to listen to themselves and talk to other people and don't accept it. If it is abuse, it won't improve. You want to tell people that, but you can't obviously go around shouting that around. So to put it into a song is just really powerful because it's always there. You can share it, and it's really powerful.
It is so true. When you hear a breakup song or a song about a specific emotion, there's something about it that you can tap into how that person's feeling or really listen to the lyrics, and the message can really be heard in a way that maybe is different to when you hear someone speaking about something. Do you find for you writing a song is different to speaking about your experience? And if so, what is the difference?
I guess, I did put some thought into the song and what really was the message that I wanted to get across. For example, mentioned gaslighting there. It's something that I really think that people are starting to understand about it, but to really having lived it is something really difficult to understand. So I really wanted to kind of try and get across what that feels like. So I was trying to just capture that in maybe a couple of lines, but and then with the chorus, it's quite repetitive. But when I was speaking to Louisa about that, she said, that's the message. That's the message you really want to get through, is don't hush your inner voice. Listen to yourself inside. That. So by repeating that message through the chorus, I guess through the music, it just feels like that message it becomes more powerful than speaking it, like you say.
It is interesting that about a chorus, that it essentially is just a way of repeating a message again and again. I'd never really thought about that before, but it's true. If you were giving a speech or a conversation, you wouldn't really return back to saying the exact same thing again and again and again. But with a chorus, it just kind of emphasises it in someone's mind. What kind of message would you want someone to take away having listened to How to Know?
I suppose listening to your inner voice, if something doesn't feel right, if you feel you're not being treated right, even if you can't put your finger on it, to just explore that and maybe talk to other people if that's appropriate, because obviously lots of things happen in relationships, of course, that aren't abusive, but if that pattern keeps going on and you just feel something's not right, to just keep listening to yourself, talk to other people, and realize that it's not okay to feel that way if you are being treated wrong.
And how have you found going to the workshops and working with other women?
Really empowering, actually, because like I said, Louisa's it's really good fun, and she just has a way of making everyone really enthusiastic, and just you do all these kind of warm-up exercises, and it all just makes you feel a bit silly, and it's just it becomes it's really good fun, but also listening to other people's stories, and obviously some similarities, but also lots of different stories, and just build friendships through that as well, and support each other.
And Louise is the person that runs the workshops, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And where can people find your song and support Sounds Like Women?
They can find it on Spotify and iTunes and Deezer and YouTube, possibly Amazon Music as well.
So there you go. Search How to Know on anywhere you get your music and you'll be able to find Lisa's song. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to me about your project.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. It's good to get that message out there.
And if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic abuse, you can get help and advice from the charity Kaleidoscopic UK, which Lisa mentioned there. Their website is kaleidoscopic.uk. You can also contact Women's Aid or head to their website, which is www.womensaid.org.uk. And Lisa also contacted me after the interview to say she wanted to add, I couldn't have got to where I was without my family, friends, and the organisations I relied on, which I mentioned during the interview. There is life after abuse.